Really nice to see you.
Oh, thank you for the kind words, Madam Chairwoman. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I still can't see you, so but I do feel better. I should see normally in a few weeks, I hope. I've got to wait for this procedure to sort of follow its natural path. So, but we're optimistic that I'll have some sense of normal in a few weeks to a month.
Great.
Thanks for all the wishes. Really appreciate it. But like I said in the last hearing, even a blind knuckle dragger can do hearings. So here we are. Look, this bill is really important. I've been talking about this bill for a long time, and appreciate us doing a hearing on this really important topic. I think we all want lower drug prices. I think the question is, how do we get there without killing the goose that lays the golden egg? There's been a lot of concern about innovation. There's been a lot of concern about the fact that when we reverse incentives to invest, and one study shows that this will directly hit the smaller biotech firms. Over 90% of them will reduce their investment. We'll see a massive decrease in new cures that could save lives, that could reduce healthcare costs in the long term. And we've talked a lot about negotiation. And Ms. Sachs, this question is for you. Is it really fair to call the process laid out here a negotiation?
Yes, I believe it is. Nothing in HR3 tells a pharmaceutical company what they can and can't charge. They limit how much those companies are able to demand those prices of the federal government.
Right, but if they don't come to the table with the federal government, they're levied a 95% tax on their revenues, correct? That doesn't seem like a negotiation. It seems like an extortion.
And right now, Medicare is a price taker. They have to accept the prices being demanded by pharmaceutical companies and have relatively little ability to push back on those prices. That's not how a free market negotiation works.
Right, but if I'm the government and you're a private citizen and I want your services, and you say, well, for that price that you're offering me, sir, I won't give you my services, and I say, if you don't give me your services, I'm going to levy a tax on you, 95% of your revenues from now on. That's not a negotiation, nothing close to it. The other problem I see with the process laid out here is, again, it's called a negotiation, but that's not how bureaucrats work. It can't work that way because of the Administrative Procedures Act, because of Section 1871 within Medicare. It can't possibly work that way. It can only work as a formula. And so it's just simply false to say it's a negotiation, isn't it? Isn't it just price setting?
So I would welcome more details on how the Administrative Procedure Act is a barrier here. It's not entirely clear to me how it would be. What I will say is that CMS...
I'll explain it really briefly. What it basically says is that you have to have an objective way of setting a price. It can't be subjective. And of course, this makes sense because we can't give one company a subjective negotiation, say, hey, you know what, we'll give you 90% of your costs. And then we say, give another company only 80% of the cost. You're a lawyer. What would happen? You'd have lawsuits. You'd have endless lawsuits. That's why we have these procedures in place.
So what we have here is a clear delegation to the Secretary of the criteria they should use in engaging in negotiation.
Exactly. And every lawyer we've talked to, every single one says there's only one outcome that will happen here. The Secretary will set up a formula. It's not going to be the Secretary talking to the CEO of Pfizer, is it? No, it's going to be a mid-level bureaucrat. That mid-level bureaucrat isn't allowed to think subjectively about how they negotiate, right? They have to follow a formula.
That's a mischaracterization of HR3.
But that's exactly how it'll be interpreted into the rulemaking, wouldn't it?
No, I think there's no reason to believe that would be.
Well, every other lawyer we talk to, counsels from CMS, counsels from CRS, say that that's exactly how this would be interpreted. In fact, it has to be according to Section 1871 from Medicare.
I think what's important here is to remember that we're talking about paying prices that are closer to the much lower prices that are being paid abroad. And that's setting up the framework for this broader negotiation. And the Secretary is given the discretion to use different criteria to negotiate within that framework.
And that may be the case for older drugs, but newer drugs will simply not be invested in. Again, I don't dispute your earlier comments that it would immediately lower drug prices, of course. I mean, by law, it's making their drug prices lower. The concerns we have are, of course, with innovation. And look, let's get philosophical for a second. I think that if we had all the cures, all the drugs that we would ever want for the human race, right now, they existed, you could make a good moral argument that the government could just confiscate them and deliver them to people, right? You could make a moral argument that way. But of course, that's not the situation that we're in. The situation we're in is that we want more drugs available to us. In America, we have access to a lot more innovative drugs than any other country. There's a study of the over 300 new drugs approved since 2011. America has access to 87% of them. Something like Australia has 39% access. So the UK is 50%. Canada has less than 50%. So innovation's a big deal. I don't know who was just talking, but I reclaim my time. Ms. Davis, I don't know if I have more time.
Crenshaw, your time. I'm sorry, your time has expired. You're over by.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Sorry, I can't see the timer. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Thank you. I gave you a little more time so you could finish a couple of your sentences there. And again, we're really thrilled that you're back. Keep making progress.
I appreciate it, Madam Chairwoman.
Please.
Thank you for indulging me. I'm sorry, I can't see the timer.
That's all right. That's okay. Now it's a pleasure to recognize the gentlewoman from Minnesota, Congresswoman Craig, to be followed by, we don't have any Republicans left, so there's going to be a string of Democrats following the gentlewoman from